behind the rumors of America's most infamous UFO incident. What really happened at Roswell? In the annals of American UFO history, few incidents have inspired as much fascination and speculation as the one in Roswell, New Mexico. It began in the summer of 1947, at the dawn of the Cold War, when the U.S. Army Air Forces sent out a shocker of a press release, announcing they'd recovered a flying disc from a ranch near Roswell. More than 70 years later, the incident remains a defining aspect of the area's identity. The town boasts a UFO museum and research center, a flying saucer-inspired McDonald's, alien-themed streetlights, even an extraterrestrial family stranded in a broken-down UFO on the side of State Route 285, looking for a jump start. But behind all the UFO mania lies an uneasy truth. The events that transpired that summer are anything but clear-cut, with admitted cover-ups and conflicting explanations. It was a saucer. It was a spy craft. It was the Soviets. And new ones are still emerging. Here are the agreed-upon facts about the Roswell crash. Sometime between mid-June and early July 1947, rancher W. W. McBrazel found wreckage on his sizable property in Lincoln County, New Mexico, approximately 75 miles north of Roswell. Several flying disc and flying saucer stories had already appeared in the national press that summer, leading Brazel to believe the wreckage, which included rubber strips, tinfoil, and thick paper, might be something of that ilk. He brought some of the material to Sheriff George Wilcox of Roswell, who in turn brought it to the attention of Colonel William Blanchard, the commanding officer of the Roswell Army Airfield, RAAF. The next day, the RAF released a statement, writing that, "The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers and the Sheriff's Office of Chavez County." According to that statement, Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer, oversaw the RAF's investigation of the crash site and the recovered materials. The government changed its story about the Roswell saucer a few times. The following day, the Roswell Daily Record ran a story about the crash and the RAF's astonishing claim. But U.S. Army officials quickly reversed themselves on the flying saucer claim, stating that the found debris was actually from a weather balloon, releasing photographs of Major Marcel posing with pieces of the supposed weather balloon debris as proof. For decades, many UFO researchers were skeptical of the government's changed account, and in 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a report in which they conceded that the weather balloon story had been bogus. According to the 1994 explanation, the wreckage came from a spy device created for an until then classified project called Project Mogul. The device, a connected string of high-altitude balloons equipped with microphones, was designed to float furtively over the USSR, detecting sound waves at a stealth distance. These balloons would ostensibly monitor the Soviet government's attempts at testing their own atomic bomb. Because Project Mogul was a covert operation, the new report claimed, a false explanation of the crash was necessary to prevent giving away details of their spy work. Other elements of the Roswell story, namely that some eyewitnesses claimed that there were alien bodies taken from the site, were explained as fallen parachute test dummies in a more extensive follow-up report in 1997. Roger Launius, a historian and retired curator for the Division of Space History at the Smithsonian National Air and Space Museum, says those two reports close most of the remaining questions about Roswell. This story has been resolved, Launius says. You do not divulge state secrets in the context of national security. My surmise is they probably saw the initial flying saucer explanation as a useful cover story. McDonald Schmidt, a UFO researcher who has spent nearly 3 decades investigating the Roswell incident and is the co-founder of the International UFO Museum and Research Center in Roswell, says that explanation makes little sense. The flying saucer story, he contends, was so ostentatious that it was bound to draw attention to the area, with its sensitive military operations at the time. Doing so would seem highly counter to the interests of the War Department. 2 hours west of Roswell, the first atomic bomb was detonated. You had ongoing atomic research at Los Alamos. You had all this testing of captured German V-2 rockets at White Sands. And at Roswell, you had the first atomic bomb squadron headquartered, Schmidt says. 2 hours west of Roswell, the first atomic bomb was detonated. You had ongoing atomic research at Los Alamos. You had all this testing of captured German V-2 rockets at White Sands. And at Roswell, you had the first atomic bomb squadron headquartered. UFO from the USSR? Another questionable theory, advanced by the book Area 51, An Uncensored History of America's Top Secret Military Base, states that the crashed flying vehicle was neither extraterrestrial nor the work of U.S. spies. Rather, it was an unconventional plan to induce widespread American panic, implemented by Soviet strongman Joseph Stalin. An unnamed source who worked as an engineer at Area 51 for the defense contractor E.G.Ng told the book's author Annie Jacobson, a veteran national security journalist and Pulitzer Prize nominee, that the program had been designed by Nazi concentration camp Dr. Joseph Mengele. According to the source, adolescent children were deformed by the Soviets to resemble aliens and then deployed in an aircraft to fly over New Mexico. According to this book, Stalin's plan was for the children to climb out and be mistaken for visitors from Mars. Panic would ensue. And, America's early warning radar system would be overwhelmed with sightings of other UFOs. That theory could go some way in explaining the wreckage described by Jesse Marcel Jr., the son of the intelligence officer named in the initial press report. According to Marcel Jr.'s book, The Roswell Legacy, his father brought some of UFO wreckage home, allowing his son to handle the debated debris before he took it to his base. Marcel Jr. wrote that the material was metallic and I could see what looked like writing. At first I thought of Egyptian hieroglyphics, but there were no animal outlines or figures. They weren't mathematical figures either, they were more like geometric symbols, squares, circles, triangles, pyramids, and the like. Marcel Jr. was 11 years old at the time, the Cold War only just beginning. Could the young boy have been reading the Cyrillic alphabet for the first time, allowing his imagination to do the rest? On this, Schmidt and Launius agree, it's not likely. There's no evidence in any Soviet archives that there were such experiments as this, says Launius. There's no evidence in any Soviet archives that there were such experiments as this.